Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Watts, out of the Organized Crime section of the Toronto Police Service. As you know, gun violence continues to be one of the most significant public safety issues that plagues our community and affects our city. The vast majority of these crimes are being perpetrated by people in possession of illegal firearms. Many of these weapons find their way onto our streets and find their way through illicit channels across the U.S.-Canadian border and into the hands of criminals who show absolutely no regard for human life. This is why the TPS is very pleased today to stand alongside the Bolo program, the Toronto Crime Stoppers, to announce a substantial reward of up to $50,000 for information leading to the arrest of Mr. Mar Cunningham, a convicted firearms trafficker. Mr. Cunningham was apprehended as part of Project Patton back in June of 2018. His involvement was in a criminal organization that was responsible for trafficking a significant amount of firearms over the U.S.-Canadian border. At that time, Project Patton resulted in the most significant seizure and single largest seizure of guns in Toronto's history. We conducted search warrants leading to 75 arrests and the laying of more than 1,000 firearms, drug, and gang-related charges. During that time, Cunningham was arrested, convicted, and then sentenced. He has been released on bail 3 times. Each time he has violated his release conditions before being arrested and released on bail again. On May the 4th of 2021, Cunningham was sentenced in absentia for 9 years in custody. Not surprisingly, he did not appear once again for his sentencing hearing. He is now wanted on a Canada-wide parole warrant and is listed as number 4 on Bolo's top 25 most wanted list. He is 39 years old, described as 6 foot 1 inches tall, approximately 160 pounds, brown eyes, black hair, and a full sleeve tattoo on his right arm. Cunningham has strong family and criminal ties in the Greater Toronto area. We believe he's still operating within the GTA community, likely under an assumed identity, and he absolutely poses a threat to public safety. Mr. Cunningham was born in Jamaica and also still has ties to that country as well. We are urging every member of the community to be on the lookout for Mr. Cunningham. If you have any information about his whereabouts, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, we are asking that you come forward. You can reach out anonymously through Crime Stoppers, or if it's an emergency, 911. Together, we can get this convicted criminal off the streets and make our communities safer. And to Mar Cunningham, the time to face the consequence of your actions is long overdue. Do the right thing, surrender yourself, get a lawyer, and spare our communities further harm. Thank you. I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Maxime Langlois, Executive Director of the Bolo program.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. As we've done many times since 2018, today's announcement is part of the Bolo program's commitment to the Toronto Police Service, Toronto Crime Stoppers, and the entire City of Toronto to build a safer community for everyone. The Mar Cunningham case is special for 4 reasons. Number 1, this is the first non-homicide case we are featuring in Toronto. Because Bolo exclusively features top priority wanted notices, our work has naturally focused on homicide cases. But by no means are homicide cases the only ones deserving of our attention. Since 2018, we've amplified several non-homicide cases, and you will see even more of these cases amplified by Bolo in the months and years to come. Because the violence plaguing our communities has transformed over the past few years, and this violence must command all of our attention. Which leads me to reason number 2. Gun violence has reached an unprecedented and unacceptable level in our country. At the root of this phenomenon are the guns themselves. And at the root of these guns are unscrupulous individuals like Kamar Cunningham. Acting with the most blatant disregard for human life, individuals like Mr. Cunningham bring these deadly weapons into our communities, their communities. Because for criminals like Mr. Cunningham, a gun in a killer's hand means money in their pockets. Because indeed, and this is reason number 3, Mr. Cunningham is not simply a suspect or an accused, as is usually the case for Bolo campaigns. He is a convicted criminal. This is the first time Bolo has had the displeasure of featuring a convicted criminal in a Toronto campaign. How is that even possible? Here's reason number 4. In 6 years of running Bolo, I've never heard such a lax application of bail by our courts. As mentioned by the superintendent, a Canada-wide warrant was issued for Mr. Cunningham because he didn't show up at his sentencing hearing. We're talking here about someone who had repeatedly shown a disregard for a rule of law, who had broken his bail conditions time and again, who was convicted of trafficking firearms, and who, despite all this, was allowed to remain in the community. The fact that he didn't show up for his sentencing hearing, where he knew he would have been ordered behind bars, could not have come as a surprise to anyone. And so this is the reason we're here today, to launch a major amplification campaign on Facebook and Instagram to encourage people in critical areas of Toronto and the GTA to be on the lookout. This digital campaign will be coupled with 6 billboards that will be popping up across the GTA. In cooperation with Toronto Crime Stoppers, the Bolo program is now offering a reward of up to $50,000 for any information leading to the arrest of Mr. Cunningham. I want to be clear here. There's only one condition for this reward to be paid. The tip you will provide needs to lead to the arrest of Mr. Cunningham, period. Once Mr. Cunningham is behind bars, our top and only priority will be to give you the reward you deserve, like we've done many times in the past. And don't forget, thanks to Toronto Crime Stoppers, you can remain completely anonymous while submitting your tip and while collecting your reward. No detail is too small. If you have something to say about Mr. Cunningham's whereabouts, call Crime Stoppers. But don't wait. This reward is only available until December 4, 2024. If you have something to say it now. I will conclude with a message for Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Cunningham, your actions have shown a blatant disregard for the safety of your community. Now is the time to do the right thing. You're going to see the reward for your arrest plastered across social media. You will see your face on billboards. This will be uncomfortable for you. Stop looking over your shoulder. Stop worrying about who will call in the tip that will lead to your arrest. Do the right thing for yourself, for your family, and for your community. Call a lawyer and make arrangements to turn yourself in. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Superintendent. Good morning, and thank you all for attending today's announcement. As I have done in the past, I will begin by saying that community safety is a shared responsibility in which we all play a role. To that end, Toronto Crime Stoppers is pleased to once again partner with the Bolo program on an amplification campaign to encourage members of our community to contact Crime Stoppers anonymously with information on the whereabouts of one of Canada's most wanted. As you've heard, Kamar Cunningham is wanted for firearms trafficking and other related firearms offenses. If you know the whereabouts of this individual and you wish to remain completely anonymous, you can call 1-800-222-8477, or you can leave a tip online at 222tips.com and remain confident that your identity will be fully protected. Our anonymous phone line and web tips are supervised 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and in over 200 languages. The information you provide Crime Stoppers will be immediately forwarded to the investigators assigned to this case, and by calling Crime Stoppers anonymously, If your information leads to the arrest of Cunningham, you'll be eligible for a reward, cash reward of up to $50,000, which can be claimed anonymously through our secure process. Toronto Crime Stoppers will always guarantee your anonymity, and you will never be required to testify in court. So we urge you, if you know the whereabouts of Mr. Cunningham, or if you have any information that can assist investigators in locating him, come forward, speak up, break the code of silence, and by doing so, you'll be making a difference in the safety of your community. A message for Mr. Cunningham. Today, thanks to the partnership, your world will be a little bit smaller. Do the right thing, contact a lawyer, and turn yourself in. I will conclude by reminding members of the public that community safety truly is a shared responsibility. When we as a community remain silent, we are all victims. We must all work together with a collaborative goal to make a difference in the prevention of crime while enhancing the overall safety of our communities. Let's choose the difficult right over the easy wrong to speak up, and by doing so, you will be supporting this year's theme of your city, your safety, your call. Toronto Crime Stoppers is committed in our efforts to mobilize the community to see it, say it, stop it for a safer Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll take any questions.
If anyone has any questions for any of the speakers, we can bring them up to answer your questions.
Sorry if I missed this off the top, but where was he last known to be? Where was he last seen? And do we think he's still in Toronto, the GTA, the country, or do we think he's, left the country?
The latest information is he is still currently in the GTA, but I would say probably 100% under an assumed identity. The gang that he was affiliated with, the gang that Project Patton focused on, was a very entrenched and well-established gang that actually has ties nationally and internationally. So they do have the capacity and they do have the ability to, create, obviously, aliases and assumed identities.
What's the name of the gang?
5PG, aka 5 Point Generals, which was a prevalent gang in the western section of Toronto.
Superintendent, of the 75 arrests that were made, how many have been convicted?
That's a good question. I don't have that answer for you. I'll get that for you, but not right now.
And through gun tracing, are you able to speak to the scope of the violence that has, impacted communities through these guns that Cunningham and his affiliates were responsible for bringing in?
Well, absolutely. Like, generically, the reality is the crime guns, we do definitive tracing and do substantive tracing on all of them. And yes, and we connect them. We connect them from, time of crime to whatever other offenses that they're connected with, yes.
Do you have any specific off the top of your head, or you
No, I
just
don't.
paint us a picture?
No. I can tell you the amount, I don't think the number was said, it's 60 firearms can be attributed, in excess of 60 substantive firearms, handguns, can be attributed to Mr. Cunningham, and there was actually more than that, but I'll say 60 for the record, and that was, so it's a substantive amount. We're not talking about 3 or 4 firearms here, whatever, the words multiple, numerous, people can draw. We're talking upwards of between 60 and 100 firearms that can be attributed to Mr. Cunningham's involvement in this project.
We hear a lot about a lot of calls for bail reform. Is this a prime example of why we need bail reform? Can you just speak a little bit more about the need for some change in the justice system?
Well, as you know, I'm not a member of the judiciary, and it's been spoken about significantly in the past by chiefs, by politicians, by a number of people. But yes, everyone has a job, and this is an issue that this individual obviously, perhaps slipped through the cracks in terms of that process. But it's also, it's also his own actions too, right? Like, we can't separate that from it. This is his own actions led to the consequences. So he's the one that refuted and defied the court orders. So that's the reality of it.
As an investigator who works on big projects like this, the Patton was huge. how frustrating is it for something like this to happen when someone's supposed to be, put away and now they're out there because of the courts?
Well, I wouldn't, I have the privilege of standing here and being the face of the investigators that are extremely, extremely dedicated and work extremely hard. They put, supreme effort and supreme investigative ingenuity into all of their investigations. So yes, but it's not personal. I don't think you take it personal. It's like they say, it's not personal, it's business, right? They're not going to take that and feel like a level of frustration where they can't function. They're the consummate professionals, and they'll continue to investigate. They'll continue to, this is just a series of extremely successful projects that have been conducted out of the organized crime major project section. So this is just a reality of where we are today.
Last question. Okay, if there's no more questions.
I would like a question on bail for Bolo.
Yeah, sure.
That's something you
Please,
said.
yeah.
I'll retake your question. For the Bolo program, as the main activity of a charitable organization, to have to intervene in cases like this, I have to say it's pretty disconcerting. We're talking again about someone who was released on bail 3 times and broke his conditions 3 times. How do we expect this gentleman to show up in court for a sentencing hearing? So our resources, obviously this is a grave case, and we're here today to amplify it and offer a major reward for it. But again, I cannot help thinking that these resources could be dedicated to other cases for which individuals would have been behind bars during their trial. We're not talking about shoplifting. We're talking about, again, as it was mentioned by the superintendent, a major investigation that led to the largest seizure of firearms in the Toronto Police history.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today.